will be pretty close.
Well, you know, the sleeper in this whole thing could be the guy in the number 3 spot, our all-time leading winner on the PBA Tour, money-wise, Pete Weber.
Pete Weber has always been the kind of guy everybody else looks over their shoulder to see where he is. He's always been a dominant player and the kind of guy that I think he was kind of feared for a number of years. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now the other players look to Pete as being struggling, and but Pete says he's back. This is the year he's going to be Player of the Year.
Well, you know, he hasn't won in the States since 1992. Hasn't made the telecast since 1994. So it'll be an interesting night to see how he does. In our opening match, we have Doug Kent, who's won an ABC Masters, taking on a former PBA Player of the Year, Marc McDowell. They're finishing off with their last practice shots right now. Mark, we're using lanes 37 and 38 here at Landmark Lanes. And as you say, the scores weren't real high all week long.
They weren't real high, but again, they were very competitive. The players couldn't seem to make a move. They'd get it going for 2 or 3 games, and then they'd fall back with a 190 or a 180 game, and it kept it close all the way. As a matter of fact, when the match play was over last night, the player in 8th place was only 45 pins off the show. So it was close.
So it was close all the way through. You know, as we've been watching them in practice, as we see Doug Kent taking his final practice shot here, there weren't a lot of strikes in practice.
Well, you know, even right down to the position round match last night for the tournament lead, it was only an 8-pin difference. If the player in 2nd place, Wayne Webb, had beat Bob Learn Jr. by 8 pins, he would have been the tournament leader. Instead, he lost, and that was the inevitable difference.
Well, Bob Learn just dominated. This event led 5 out of the 6 rounds. So.
But it was close. Always close. And that's what I expect today.
Now we're starting. Counts now.
Great opening shot, really. He got it where he wanted it. And one of the prerequisites to making the top 5 today, in my opinion, if you look at all 5 players as we go along, you'll find that all 5 of them are physically strong. They can throw the ball very hard if they need to, get it down the lane quite well. Cross lane at the spare, the 7-pin. A lot of speed here.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, you're right.
Marc McDowell up quickly on lane 38. Mark, a little more conventional game, doesn't hook it quite as much.
Gets it well out in the lane. The strength of his game and what got him here today was the fact that he can get it out on the lane about 8 feet in the air before it touches down. That's what keeps it on line like that. Now, if he'd have set that down a little earlier, it would have been a 4-6. Instead, it holds the pocket. The key to Mark making the telecast is if you watch, he'll get the ball at least a minimum 4 or 5 feet out on the lane before it touches.
Does that make it skid further?
Well, what it does, it takes the first 5 feet out of the lane, gets that friction out, so it doesn't let it hook earlier.
No trouble with the 4-pin.
Now, Mark is semi-retired now. He's backed off. Here's a look at his style. It's a very basic style, as you mentioned, Mike. A good swing, but watch the ball. Out in the air. It doesn't touch till there. You can see that's 4 or 5, maybe 6 feet out on the lane. And again, the reason he is successful on this type of a lane condition where the lanes tend to hook is he can get it down the lane better than most other players.
Well, that left lane really flying back, isn't it?
Yeah, and that one he hit up on a little bit, and that's why he got that back end. He got a little more back end on that. What I mean by that, the ball went down the lane like he wanted it to, and I believe he was on target. You can see his reaction. He's shaking his head a little bit. But watch this. When he hits up, the ball will go up in the air off his hand. See that? Rather than staying on the plane of the lane, level with it, it came up in the air, and that made it get more back end, which means it hooked high on the head pin. Give him a try.
How in the world do you get it that far out of the lane without hitting up on it?
Well, it's the point of release. It's a release point, and you use your leg strength to help you get it out on the lane. If you watch a player like he isn't a big guy, but he's very strong physically, especially in his legs. His upper thighs are very strong. He can, with his leg strength, help lift the ball out on the lane.
Now, is Doug Kent a similar type player as far as getting it out on the lane like that?
Doug normally doesn't play that way. He's using it today because it's to his advantage. He's physically very strong, as you know. He plants at the foul line. If you watch, he'll plant his foot at the foul line, pull the ball through. The ball's very late coming through. Uses his big shoulders, his upper body strength to actually plant the foot and pull the ball, create the ball speed he needs, and loft it. And it's more difficult Okay, very simply, Doug Kent has to create this shot. Marc McDowell does it naturally.
I see. Tough spare, the 2-8. No trouble, has it easily.
Here's a look at the style of Doug Kent from the side here. Watch the important part of his game on this lane condition. As you see, he's got great fundamentals. But when he gets to the foul line, watch his foot will stop there. See where the ball's still up, almost waist high. He pulls it all the way through from there. You see him turn sideways with his foot. That shows you how hard he's pulling to create the ball speed he needs. Good camera work there, Mike, huh?
Mm-hmm. Wow, that left lane.
It's really going, that left lane.
Going to give him, everybody, a bunch of trouble tonight, I would think.
Yeah, the big five.
Well, we have a new stat this year. The splits left during 1995. We can see that they were converted at 11.6%.
They don't make very many of this one, though, I'll tell you that.
Right, yeah, the Greek church. The percentage of that would be in the 00 something.
Yeah. Marc McDowell was at one time the youngest, well, he still is the youngest ever president of the PBA. He is not president currently, but he was the youngest ever elected president, and he's very proud of that, and he should be.
Is there anything these guys can do? Can they move deeper or anything?
Well, they have to wait for a transition. The oil's got to move a little bit. That's the only chance they have of keeping the ball high in the pocket area is for the oil to carry down.
And 2-pin spares, we can see that they were converted at a much higher rate. Most common. 610 made every single time.
Boy, that's not...
wow, I almost ended that right there.
Wow. '92 Bowler of the Year, 1986 Rookie of the Year. So he's been very successful on the tour. He decided he'd rather spend most of his time with his son Ryan and his wife Patty. So even if he wins today, he's just not going to bowl again until the Tournament of Champions. Now that's not overdoing it, is it?
No, that's certainly. Well, not too many strikes so far, Earl. Have we had one yet? No, we're still looking for our first strike between the two players.
Now, the best shot we've seen so far was the opening shot from Doug Kent when he hit half pocket and left the 7-pin on what he thought would be a strike. After that, it's been a struggle.
At the 4-pin.
Spares you can't take for granted either. The lane surface has been dry. The ball tends to hook very sharply, and you've got to be